To buy or to rent? The age-old question, going back a while. Well, we chose to buy, have lived in this house for a little over a year now, and in that time period have had our eyes open to a few things about the reality of home ownership.
And to add some context to our situation, this is the first house we've ever bought and owned. For most of our adult lives up until now, we've been renting. We've rented a townhome in the suburbs, a condo on the beach in Hawaii, and we've lived in 2 different apartment complexes. And what we've noticed is there's some similarities to renting and owning, but there's also some big differences.
So what we hope to do in this video is shed some light on what home ownership really looks like, basically from our experience renting for so long, now moving into home ownership, just so if anybody out there is kind of in the same phase in life, looking to buy a home or looking to buy for the first time, or maybe just curious about what it's like, you guys can kind of learn from Brittany's and my journey here. So with that being said, what's up guys? I'm Mike.
And I'm Brit.
And let's get into it.
So when people say owning a home is going to be expensive and there's fees, hidden costs, and is probably going to be more than you think, they're absolutely right.
There are a lot of fees and costs associated with it. So for example, like even before you move into the house that you're looking to buy, there's closing costs and attorney's fees and moving expenses and probably a hefty down payment. In our case, all of that added up to over $46,000. That's including the down payment. We put a pretty sizable down payment in there as well. But we made a video about that. If you guys are interested, I'll link it up here. It goes into everything, every single cost we ran into buying this house. But it's expensive. So all that's even before you move in. So then you have HOA fees, lawn maintenance, pest control, property taxes, upkeep when things break or like need a little elbow grease and things like that. And at least in Brittany's and my case, our utility bills, some months are up to about 25% over renting. Not every month, but some months they are.
That's because we rented a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, so it was a lot smaller in terms of square footage, and here it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, so it's a lot larger.
So compare all that to renting when pretty much like the only thing you have to pay for is your rent, renter's insurance, and maybe a small utility bill. Owning a home has added a bunch more financial responsibilities to our lives.
Yeah.
And that's just because it comes with a lot more financial responsibilities.
So the next thing we've learned is the old saying, location, location, location means everything. And it absolutely does.
Yeah, this phrase goes well beyond home ownership. Our advice is that if you are moving into a house, pay careful attention to what and who is directly around the place you want to move into. And this doesn't have to just do with owning a home. It could be for renting or whatever. Are there buildings around it? If so, what kind of buildings are they? Like how often are they open? Are they open all hours of the day? Are they like a 24/7 operation? Or are they just regular business hours, 9 to 5? Brittany's and my apartment that we lived in before this, we lived maybe 300 feet away from a big, what was it called?
It's like a distribution center.
Yeah, and they were a 24/7 operation, and we heard like this loading dock with big equipment vehicles like backing up with a beep, 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 all day. I'm not even kidding, guys, like all day, all night.
What was bad was when we went to the apartment, the one time we looked at it, it wasn't making the noise that time because I think it was a Sunday or something when they were closed.
The one day we went to look at the apartment we were thinking about renting.
It was the one day where they were closed.
When they were like quiet or something, yes. If you're especially sensitive to noise, keep that in mind. If things like that don't bother you, then no big deal.
So another thing to keep in mind is look at the area around you and surrounding your neighborhood. Don't just focus on the neighborhood. So go out a couple blocks, even a couple streets. Do you think it would be a good investment over time? Or is it a developing community? Are they upgrading the area? Is it going to be a good investment? Also, is there a lot of rental properties by you? Or say, for example, you live close to maybe like a college area and you're near people who may be throwing parties a lot or being loud.
Think about your personality, how sensitive you are to noises and things like that around you, and then look at the type of properties around your house and ask yourself, okay, is this going to work with how I am?
Right.
And if not, maybe you want to look somewhere else.
Trust your gut. And if it doesn't feel right, the area just doesn't sit well with you for whatever reason, just walk away.
Yeah. And don't feel bad about it because like this is a very permanent, it's not like a permanent, but it's pretty permanent for at least a while.
Yeah.
Decision that you're going to be making. You need to make sure that like everything's good. On the flip side, having neighbors who are kind and respectful and just super nice could like really create a sense of community and
just a great neighborhood experience.
Yeah.
The next thing we've learned is it's a lot of work and it's a lot of responsibility, which in our opinion isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, with freedom comes responsibility.
Yeah, and with a house, you have a lot of freedom. Like you have the freedom to decorate your yard or landscape your yard however you want, add bushes or trees, build a pool, build a fence, build a back deck or whatever.
And do whatever you want to the inside.
Paint the wall colors hot pink, or even like hang a big Lamborghini Aventador on the wall, or whatever you want to do, which in an apartment, you can't do. In our apartment that we lived in before this, you couldn't even light candles inside. You have a lot more freedom with home ownership, but that also comes with a lot of responsibility. With a home, you're in charge of everything. Everything's like on your shoulders. When something breaks or needs upkeeping, it's your responsibility. It's on you. So instead of just making a phone call to the leasing office and be like, hey, our sink's not working or whatever, if your sink's not working in your home, you got to figure out how to fix it. And you're either paying for that out of your pocket to pay to hire somebody else to fix it, or you're paying for it with your time learning how to fix it yourself and buying the tools required or whatever. So having experience with many different living situations, renting a condo, renting a townhome, renting a couple of apartments, and now owning a home, we can definitely see how people would much rather live in a home with all the freedom that comes with it. We'd also see why people would just hate home ownership because of all the extra responsibility. The next thing we learned was that with home ownership, there's a lot, at least for Brittany and I, there's a lot more of a feeling of being tied down to the location we're living in as compared to when we were living in the apartments or a townhome or whatever. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but it is something we feel like you guys should be aware of.
And this was mainly because when we were renting, we never felt too tied down to the area, meaning we could leave if we wanted to. So if we wanted to break the lease, it's usually just paying 1 month's worth of rent, and then you can move on to a new location.
Yeah.
Or if there was a problem in the apartment you were in, you could just move to a different one.
Contrast that to owning a home. If you want to move, there's a bunch of planning involved, and there are fees, real estate agent fees. You're going to pay closing costs again.
Possibly,
yeah. And then closing costs for the new home if you're moving into a new home.
You also have to prepare for showings. There's just a lot more stress.
Yeah,
involved.
Showings is huge.
Yeah.
Like you got to keep the house cleaned and staged like all the time until you're under contract. There's just a lot more involved with if you feel like you may want to move from a house, it's probably going to take longer and it's going to be more of a complicated process. I'm saying this kind of from experience because my family did a lot of moving when I was younger. So I'm not a stranger to moving from house to house to house. Usually what we would do is buy a house, fix it up a little bit, live in it for a few years, and then move on to the next one. It is kind of a hassle keeping things cleaned and organized and staged, I guess. Because sometimes when you're staging a house, it's not necessarily how you would be living in it normally. So anyways, just keep that in mind. If you're in a situation in life where, whether it be a job, your job, or other opportunities in the future where you think that you may not want to be tied down to a location for more than a few years, you may just think about renting because of that. Or if you're ready to settle down and have a family or something like that, owning a home may be better in that circumstance.
So this next one took us by surprise, and that was the amount of repairs needed on our brand new constructed home.
Yeah.
And this is why a home warranty is really important.
So these weren't huge things. It's not like our air conditioning went out and our roof needed replacing, 6 months after we moved in. It's just little things here and there, things that, nail pops in the ceiling, floorboards getting loose.
Or small cracks in the tile work, or the flashing from the roof doesn't go all the way and your gutter is leaking in between that and the roof line. So just things like that.
Like Brittany said, having a home warranty was very nice in this situation because it gave us somebody to call. It's hey, we just moved in, these things are happening. Can you fix them for us? So a lot of the things in our home are covered for 1 year, I think some up to 5 years, maybe 3 years, under the home warranty. And it's just nice because it adds a little bit of peace of mind, even though you do have to call somebody and schedule a time for them to come out and fix it. It's not like living in an apartment where usually you just have the maintenance crew come up the same day or within 5 minutes or whatever and take a look. At least in Brittany's and my experience, having the warranty crew come out, maybe scheduling it takes a week or two.
Yeah.
But it is nice and it takes away hassle that you could have had otherwise. So there are two sides to these things that we've learned. One is that things will break even on a new construction. So be prepared for that, regardless of whether you're buying new or pre-owned. And that even if you're buying pre-owned, look into a warranty because it may be worth it.
And the last point we want to talk about is appreciation, and this was a huge bonus for us in owning our home.
Yeah, appreciation is something that you will not get when you're renting. There are trade-offs either way. So when you rent, the owner of wherever you're renting is taking care of all the problems for you, but they're also taking on all the risk. Whereas if you own, you're taking on all the risk, but you also get all the rewards of appreciation when that happens.
And Mike and I have only lived here for 1 year, and we may already have up to $70,000 in equity.
Yeah, well, and that's above the our down payment. So our house may have already appreciated $70,000 since moving in, which is insane. And the reason we think this is because there are a couple of homes that have been built like on the same street their neighborhood's on, same floor plan, that was listed for $350.
And are currently under contract.
Currently under contract. We're waiting to see how much it's sold for, but $350, that's $80,000 more than what we bought ours for. Even if it's sold for like $340 or $330, that's still a large amount of money over what Bernie and I paid for the same floor plan that just sold for much more money across the street.
And there is the argument that we are in a housing bubble and this may not last. So of course it's all dependent on the market.
Yeah, the market could crash tomorrow and we could be back to square one. Hopefully that's not going to happen, but a bunch of people think we are in kind of a housing bubble. We'll see. So in the end, was buying this house worth it for us? Was it worth it going from renting for years and years to home ownership?
And for us, it definitely was. Mike and I don't think we could ever go back to living in an apartment. Now, if it was something where, say, a job relocation happened and we wanted to check out the area, we may rent, but it would most likely be a townhome or a home that we would rent and learn the area and then find out where we wanted to buy our house next.
Yeah, unless it was just something super temporary, like maybe 2 or 3 months. I don't even think you could rent an apartment for 2 months. Maybe you could. Having all this, hopefully appreciation in the home, combined with just being able to live somewhere that we can say that we own and kind of feel like we belong here. Belong's the wrong word, but like it's ours.
Yeah,
and
it's our home.
Yeah, with the other places we lived, we hadn't really been able to say that. But again, it's just really based on, our circumstances may not be your circumstances, and our personalities may not be your personalities. That's why I think there's this huge debate between renting and buying, because it's really kind of a subjective thing in many aspects, and it's based on the individual rather than like hard rules and principles and things like that.
Right.
So with that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching. We appreciate it. We hope this video added some value to you, or at least helped you think about some things that you may not have thought about regarding buying your first home.
And if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And if you want to, you can follow us on Instagram at Ritsmikeandbrit. Post there every now and then.
Yep. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Going back a while. Well, we chose to buy, and
It's so corny.
have lived in this house for a little over, wait.